In the heart of Central Africa lies the Democratic Republic of Congo, a nation full of rich resources and beautiful jungles, yet a land that struggles with the harsh realities of poverty and underdevelopment. As we journey into the living standards of the DRC, we will first discover 5 essential indicators of development: percent of population living below the poverty line, average years of schooling, life expectancy, the share of people using safely managed drinking water, and finally, freedom of expression. We will also compare those statistics with Australia, highlighting the huge disparities. Now, how do these indicators actually affect the living standards of DRC? Specifically, we will be looking at 2 factors: political and environmental.
Decades of political instability and conflict have negatively impacted the living standards of almost everyone within the DRC. After receiving independence from Belgium in 1960, there have been coups, dictatorships, and civil wars leading to millions of deaths and a poor economy and infrastructure. This all leads to extreme poverty across the entire country, with 78.94% of the population being under the poverty line as of 2020. Due to the fragile political state of the DRC, development efforts and economic growth have been hampered. With a poor economy, key public services such as healthcare and education are often ignored, causing the DRC to have a life expectancy of 59.7 in 2020 compared to Australia with a life expectancy of 84.3. This goes along with the lower average year of schooling, with the average years of formal education being 4.8 years in 2020 compared to Australia's being 12.9 years. The corrupt and poor governance of the DRC leads to lacking improvements in social areas as well, such as gender equality, human rights, and a freedom of expression. For example, the DRC as of 2023 has a gender inequality index of 0.605 compared to Australia's 0.063, where 0 indicates men and women are treated fairly. In 2020, the DRC had a freedom of expression index of 0.7, which can be attributed due to the violence and intimidation stemming from the political state of the DRC. In relation to environmental factors, Australia has an estimate of over 95% of its population having access to safely managed drinking water, while the Democratic Republic of Congo falls extremely far behind this, with only 11.19% of its population having access to clean water as of 2020. This can be attributed to the many environmental challenges that the DRC faces, causing a direct impact on living standards, like the access to clean water, within the country. Some examples of environmental challenges include deforestation, heavy metal pollution, poor sanitation, and land degradation. These factors critically impact health and overall well-being in DRC. For example, deforestation leads to greenhouse gas emissions and may lead to fewer crops and wood, resulting in more poverty. To further this on, the Congo government is deciding to auction 30 oil and drilling blocks in parts of the Congo Basin, which is the last rainforest on Earth that sucks in more carbon than it releases. This may ruin ecosystems and increases tension and divides communities that may even lead to huge disagreements and human rights abuse. In addition, heavy metal pollution can lead to harm to the brain, heart, kidneys, and lungs, and a lack of access to clean water can lead to waterborne diseases.
As we have already delved into the contributing factors behind the living standards of Congo, let's discover how international aid plays a vital role in improving the trajectory of these factors and ultimately reclaiming the proper living standards that the Congolese population deserves.
Various organizations are involved in helping vulnerable people and the government who are located in the Democratic Republic of Congo. For instance, European countries from the European Union Civil Protection and Humanitarian Aid Operations as of 2024 have a budget of 63.75 million euros in humanitarian funding to help Congo. This amount of money is essential for Congo, as in 2020, 78.94% lived below $2.15 a day, meaning they don't have the funds to support themselves. As a result, they are providing food, shelter, protection, healthcare, and they are also providing more education, which includes vocational training and equipping individuals with important life skills. This will improve living standards for those who need education at school, because in 2020, the average years of schooling was only 4.8 years. The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization also hold programs that support media and communication development, legal reforms to strengthen freedom of expression, as well as providing cash-based assistance and missions. International aid is also shown through the World Bank. Their executive directors approved financing to increase access to drinking water and sanitation in selected provinces, which is a detrimental problem that Congo faces. On June 9, 2023, the water project known as the Water Supply and Sanitation Access Program was approved with an overall financing envelope of $1.25 billion. This will also be beneficial for women as it can address menstrual hygiene, which helps with reproductive health. To enhance forest landscapes, $290 million in IDA credits was provided to support forest conservation efforts in DRC. In fact, Africa Olahoba, who is the practice manager for the Africa Region Environment, Natural Resources, and Blue Economy at the World Bank, believes that by developing agroforestry and reforestation in degraded savanna areas, the project will help meet strong local market demand for wood energy and sustainable foodstuffs.
Overall, international aid helps to improve the living standards in DRC by supporting healthcare, education, and economic opportunities, ultimately leading to a better quality of life and reduced poverty, which helps to solve the low life expectancy in Congo. Now that we have seen the factors that affect living standards, another interesting phenomenon to note is how living standards is a driving force of forced migration in the desperate search for a better life. The violence and instability plaguing the DRC mirrors the struggles of these three countries, El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, also known as the Northern Triangle. This draws them on a precarious journey across the border to reach the country of the United States. For context, the Central American immigrant population in the US grew from 354,000 to more than 3 million people. As of 2021, around 3.8 million people from these countries were living in the United States. In 2021, 40% were from El Salvador, 32% were from Guatemala, and 20% were from Honduras. And finally, 7% were from Nicaragua. This statistic shows how the countries from the Northern Triangle make up 93% of this. Starting from 1980, socioeconomic factors played a significant role in forced migration from people of the Northern Triangle, consisting of El Salvador, Guatemala, and Honduras, to Central America. Within the Northern Triangle, there has been a widespread of poverty and inequality amongst the people. This is due to land ownership and economic power being typically only available through the small group of elites. Without improved job creation and a lack of education, many people face unemployment or underemployment. Rural areas also struggle the most with a lack of education and healthcare. And in addition to this, natural disasters that range from hurricanes, volcanoes, earthquakes, and prolonged droughts have aggravated the already difficult living conditions in the region. Scientific studies show that the extreme warm temperatures have increased in Central America since the mid-20th century. The coffee sector provides a huge source of income for citizens in these regions, and due to these climate changes, it has caused a noticeable effect on rural poverty and has impacted the coffee sector, with 50 to 100% of crops being affected by historic episodes of droughts. These socioeconomic disparities drives many to migrate in a search for a country with more opportunities.
Poor governance and corruption is also an issue because it has led to undermine economic development efforts and contributes to inequality and poverty. The government fails to dedicate and provide sufficient resources to the public sector, leaving citizens with a lack of motivation and hope that these circumstances would improve. Due to this poor government system, gangs were formed to intimidate and infiltrate government institutions. Regions became faced with extreme violence due to dominating drug trade and also experienced a widespread of sexual and gender-based violence. This is particularly seen in many women who become victims of domestic violence, rape, and sexual assault. Members of the LGBTQ community are also subject to severe discrimination, including barriers to necessary and basic services such as health, education, employment, as well as lacking legal protection. As a result, this political instability and lack of justice is a driving factor for citizens to migrate to escape their harsh circumstances.
Organizations have been working for decades to improve the living standards of El Salvador, Honduras, and Guatemala. They aim to address the problems of this forced migration by helping communities through programs on violence prevention, social inclusion, food security, maintaining proper hygiene and sanitation, and achieving quality levels of education and healthcare. By providing more cash assistance programs, it can mitigate the economic impact and help eradicate the spread of disease. In spite of that, it is believed that Goal 1, No Poverty, of the U.S. Sustainable Development Goals will be the most important for these three countries to address in improving people's livelihoods, as a vast majority of people living there face significant poverty. To achieve SDG 1, these strategies can be implemented. By applying agriculture development, capacity building workshops such as Crédito Solidario and rural credit unions, people in rural areas can learn how to apply sustainable farming techniques and have access to improved seeds, irrigation systems, and increased yield. This allows them to produce crops all year round for family consumption and sell crops to generate more income to provide for their families. Organizations such as the World Food Programme held meetings with international financial institutions such as the World Bank to explore ideas on how to give greater opportunities for those living in these countries. As a result, youth-targeted programs, income generation activities, and entrepreneurship projects, and the integration of poverty and malnutrition data have been provided towards them to allow them to gain additional ways to increase their income. Approximately 60% of the Guatemalan people live in poverty as of today, with 8.24% of the population living below $2.15 as of 2023. Guatemala remains to have significant challenges to reach their goals for SDG 1. However, with assistance organizations, it is promising that Guatemala can grow its economy and make it possible to reach SDG 1. 5.15% of El Salvadorians are living below $3.65 a day. Moreover, only 1.47% of the population are living under $2.15 a day during 2023. El Salvador has been making great progress overall in achieving SDG 1, as just 30 years ago, 22% of the population were living under $2.15. As of 2023, 12.74% of people are living under $2.15 per day. Although progress is slow, this figure is gradually decreasing each year through efforts in social, economic, and environmental aspects. With help from organizations such as the promotion of food security and social inclusion in the Lempa region of Honduras, they aim to make a positive impact on all people who struggle with poverty. Thank you for listening.